well, it's 5 o'clock. So before we get started, I wanted to say hello to everyone. I'm so glad that you're all here. If you haven't met me, although I think I know everyone in this room so far, I'm Karen Lewis. I'm the director of Neighborhood Music School. And we're in Boyle Heights here in Los Angeles. And we're going to go ahead and get started shortly. But first, I just wanted to welcome everyone for our inaugural Careers in Music series. This is episode 1. This is a partnership between Neighborhood Music School and Disney Music Group Concert Division. And this really came about when Veronica Hart, who is our amazing moderator here today, give a wave, Veronica, when she and I and the group at Disney Music Group and Neighborhood Music School, we all came together to discuss the powerful ways in which music inspires and influences and generates pathways in all aspects of our life and career. So we thought, let's open up our conversation and talk about how we got here. So we invited some friends from Disney to share their journey as well. And there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the very end. So hang on to your questions, or better yet, type them in the chat box. And if for some reason we can't get to them, we will follow up with you later because we only have a little bit of time and we're going to go through a lot of stuff here today. And tonight really is just the beginning of this conversation. So I'd like to give a big thank you to Veronica and our panel tonight and all the folks at Disney Music Group Concerts Division. You guys have been so awesome, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our Neighborhood Music School students who are here tonight. And I'm going to pass it over to Janine. She's going to go ahead and talk about some of the tech elements of this evening.
Good evening. My name is Janine DiTomaso. I'm the development director at Neighborhood Music School. So I suggest to put way up at the top on the right-hand side, although kids, you guys have been doing this for 1.5 years, so you probably know Zoom better than the grown-ups. If you put your view on speaker, I'm going to pin our panelists, and that way you'll be able to see their faces while they're speaking. And we just ask that you stay muted. And then when it's time for questions and answers, you can unmute yourself. And if not, I will remind you that you're muted.
Excellent.
And if we are recording, and so we have all signed, but if you feel shy, then you don't have to keep your camera on. However, it would be really, really amazing to see all of the faces of our community. So we do encourage you, please keep your camera on, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. All right, everybody, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to start with a brief introduction of what the Disney Music Group is, and then I'll turn it over to our panelists. So the Disney Music Group has 4 general areas. We have our record label. I think you guys have heard of maybe what that is, and that's basically where artists are signed. So when we sign an artist, it just means that we agree to work with them and help them fine-tune their music and then put their music out into the world. Do any of you know the Disney movie Descendants? Has anyone seen that? Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah, I see some yeses. Okay. Well, Sophia Carson plays a character on Descendants, and she's one of the people that we signed to our record label. So she'll be singing and performing and all that good stuff. We also have our Walt Disney Records label, and there we handle all of the songs that you guys have all grown up with, you know, like Small World and, Moana, just anything you can think of that's Disney, it's under that label. And so we have our catalog or our older songs, and we also have our new songs, which are in our soundtracks. And Paulo, of course, is going to dig into a lot of this because this is the world he lives in. But basically, the team develops the release plan for all the great music you hear in movies like Star Wars, The Black Panther, Coco, Moana, you know, it goes on and on. And they also do shows like High School Musical and The Mandalorian. We have our publishing team also, and they sign songwriters. So basically, the songwriters write songs, of course, and then we put them in our movies. Or we have our singing artists that will also sing the songs, and we have artists in other labels that will sing their songs as well. And finally, we have our concerts group. And our concerts group sets up these amazing experiences where orchestras and artists play and sing along to the music of Disney films while the film is being shown on the big screen in places like the Hollywood Bowl. Some of the movies they've done are Star Wars, from the Star Wars franchise, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Coco, and they're just gorgeous. So I think those are the 4 buckets that we have for the music group. Panelists, did I miss anything? Should I add anything? Are we good? Yeah? Okay, good. Well, now I'm going to turn it over to you, my panelists. So thank you guys for joining us. I wanted to start out by getting to know you guys a little bit. So for all of you, I would love for you guys to tell us all what your major was in college, how you ended up in music, and then if you don't mind, jump into what you do at the music group. So I will start with the first person I see, which is Mr. David Walsh. Please take it away.
Okay, thanks very much, Veronica. First of all, before I go into that, I just want to say hello and congratulate each of you for being in this music school. I think it's outstanding and encouraging and exciting that to see youth getting involved in music. So congratulations to you, and thanks for joining this discussion. It's really cool to see all of you guys. My major in college was had nothing to do with music. Actually, it was history. I had sort of a roundabout journey through college. Right out of high school, I actually did start at college intending to major in music, but I took a detour and joined a rock band instead and did that for about 5 or 6 years before that ended, and I went back to college. Absent any other direction, I just kind of fell into history. But how I got into music was I started out trying to be, for lack of a better term, just a rock star, right? I was in a hard rock band back in the late 80s and early 90s. And we did get as far as getting signed and putting out one album. But by the time it came out, our kind of genre of music wasn't in favor anymore. So the band split up after about a year and a half after that record came out, went back to college, stayed involved in the music business to a degree, kept playing my guitar, learned some piano, did some session work, worked at a studio. And then through a friend of a friend, I got a job at Capitol Records. It was an entry-level job. It was doing some database cleanup. Wow, how long ago was that? That was 22 years ago. Here I am now at Disney. I've been at Disney for 14 years, and I run a department which is called A&R Administration. It's kind of a fancy term. But what we do is we make sure that people who create the music get paid. That includes everything from the musicians, the singers, the backing singers, the people in the recording studio who sit behind the big fancy mixing desk, the people who set up the microphones, all of that. And I also administer some other complex kind of agreements, which make sure that people get paid the right wages. Those are called union agreements. So that more or less sums it up for me. I'm going to turn it over to our next panelist, which Veronica is.
Let's go for Laura.
Laura Gonzalez, everybody.
She's in.
Oh my God, I was hoping it was Paulo. Oh. Well, hi everyone. I want to echo what David said. It's so nice to see all of y'all so young, trying to get into learning everything about music, because music, as you can tell, we're all super passionate about it. You will tell by our stories how we ended up in music. I was born and raised in Mexico. My major, I went to college in Mexico. My major is marketing with a minor in musical theater. How I ended up in music, it's a funny story, because when I was in college, I was doing everything within my power. And even in high school and even in junior high school, I was a musical theater kid. I was in every single kind of play that you can even imagine. I did every job on the theater. I lived in the theater. I loved it. I did wardrobe. I did lights. I dressed people. I helped them with their wardrobes. I acted. I sang. I played the piano. I was really, really addicted. I knew that I was gonna, my passion was to perform in the performing arts. So when I went in college, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do, only to have my dad pull me aside and told me, you're not that good. You don't sing that good. And it's not a career for you. I was devastated, but then it turned out it was kind of true. So I decided then to figure out how could I still be involved with the performing arts and music, which I love so much. I come from a very musical family. So long story short, my mom worked at a movie theater. I fell in love with all of the different posters. And I said, one day I want to do movie posters for movies. And I'm close. I'm really close to do that as a living, and marrying both of my passions, which is, building posters to advertise concerts, which is what I do for the Disney Music Group. I make all of the different posters that will let people know the different concerts. So I build creative assets and marketing campaigns to let people know that we have all of our concerts. And then being close to the movies, I also help and distribute and build campaigns about different Disney movies, catalog mostly up until recently. So my job really is to make people aware that we have music out there, music products, music concerts, and it's fun. It's been fun and I love it. And then whoever's next.
Let's start to Royd and we'll end with Paulo, just to shake it up.
Well, hello, and just like everyone else, I want to say thank you for letting us come here and talk to you guys. We're really excited and very glad we can do it. So, my major in college was music business. Ta-da! It worked. When I was in high school, my guidance counselor, the guy that's supposed to help you decide what job you're going to get, he said, Royd, what do you like to do? I was like, well, I like to play the piano. I like to sing. You should go in music business. There you go. And the way I got into music, it's kind of a funny story too. When I was little, I remember I was at my grandparents' house and my dad had stayed at home. And he called me and said, when you get home, I've got a surprise for you. And I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be a bicycle. I've been wanting a bicycle. I can't wait. It's going to be a bicycle. So I get home, throw the door open, and there's this piano. And I'm like, that's not the bicycle I wanted. And he's like, well, do you want to take lessons? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? So I started taking lessons and fell in love. I love being able to express myself, being able to play songs that my mom would sing along to. It was just really cool. And so when I got ready to go to college, I decided, yes, I'm going to major in music and get a degree in music business. And the thing that propelled me, that kept me staying in music, that I joined this little jazz group. I was a singer. So we had a little quartet and we'd go around and we'd do shows and stuff. It was a lot of fun. The piano player was this old guy from New York, Pete Avalon. And he talked like this. He was really cool. And he used to call me Little Jazz, which was kind of fun. And so he said, Little Jazz, I hear you play the piano. I'm like, well, a little bit. And so he said, play a chord for me. So I played a chord. And he said, now, next time I say you play a chord, I want you to play like this. And he did this beautiful jazz chord that had, so much breath and life to it that I was like, I made the right choice. This is beautiful. This is something that I wanted to do. And so I stuck with it. And that was in Alabama. And how I made it to California is another interesting story that I'll probably save for a little bit later. So we'll pass it on.
Oh, but what do you do at the music group, Royd?
Oh my gosh. What do I do at the music group? This is really cool. So I work in Disney concerts. So what we do with concerts, it's kind of like going to the movies at a theater, a big theater, or like the Hollywood Bowl. And instead of hearing the music come from the big speakers on the soundtrack, we have a live orchestra underneath that plays it. And it's really, really cool because sometimes you forget that the orchestra is playing and you're just so wrapped up into the movie. And then you look down and you're actually seeing the people playing the music that you love from your favorite films. And so it's my job. I work kind of like in the operations. It's my job to make sure that the orchestra gets their music, to make sure they have everything that they need, to make sure the conductor has what he needs. So when he gets up there, he's looking at the right piece of music and he's not doing Star Wars and he sees Ratatouille. So that's kind of my gig. And now we'll pass it on.
Yes. And now, Paulo, you are on.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I also want to echo what everyone said. A real, treat to be here with you guys, and so excited to see so many folks, interested in music and interested in getting some more information about, getting into music as a career. So thank you also for having us. So starting off, I my major in the university was business. I had a minor, so an emphasis area in marketing. And I always knew that that's what I wanted to pursue in terms of academics at the university. But for me, the two worlds came together, you know, bringing music and marketing really was grounded in my upbringing, because my dad was a musician and for decades and decades. And so I grew up very much in a music world, music family, going to recording studios and sessions and shows and concerts. And so from very, very young on, it was always part of our life. And then, you know, as I got a little bit older, you know, you start liking all kinds of different music, and you know, some people like to play, some people like to dance, some people like to write music. So it was really kind of just, you know, a great way to, you know, grow up. And then also I saw very much firsthand the impact that music can have on people, from the direct experience of just listening to writing the music and to be able to be a lyricist, to create a message through song and the power that comes from that. And it just really gives me chills until today in terms of how many, not only ways music can impact people, but how many careers there are in music and pathways for people. And so as I went through school, graduated, I actually started very much 101 marketing of consumer goods. So think, you know, TVs, direct TV and movies and DVDs and all those kinds of things, which you guys probably don't even know about DVDs. But anyways, that's too way back in the day. But and then I got to Disney, and around 2005, doing some movie marketing and product management, and then made the move to music team in 2007, and really ultimately is where those two worlds combine for me. I love what I do. It's an absolute privilege to be able to work on the films and the content that we all get to work on. I always say what we do, it's not like we're doctors or we operate on people, but again, the power of music, it impacts and inspires from very young to very old. And it's a generational experience that really becomes part of the fabric of people's lives. The music of, you remember Lion King, Moana, Coco, you know, Beauty and the Beast. We can go back for decades and you'll remember music from all these incredible films. So again, very privileged to, you know, be in the position that we all are in, to be part of this. And directly, I market and bring the soundtracks really out to consumers, to fans, you know, across the board. And it can vary in terms of all the content and whatnot. So I don't know, Veronica, if that's good or if you need anything more.
That was perfect,
Okay.
Paulo. So Paulo, basically, when you go to stream something on Spotify, you guys want to look for something on Apple's, Paulo has been a big part of making all that good music happen. So if you want to play You're Welcome 100 times from Moana, Paulo's one of the reasons that you can do that. Thank you, Paulo. So I wanted to open it up to a question for all of our panelists, a little behind the scenes, if you will. What would you say was your most favorite and inspiring project that you've worked on at the Disney Music Group? And I'll start with Laura on that one.
Oh, I was not looking at the screen. I was not doing eye contact to you, so I would go.
I saw you look down.
Dang it! Oh man. I have to you know, I have to say I agree with Paulo, and Paulo and I think alike in a lot of ways. It is an absolute not only a pleasure, but it is an absolute honor to be able to work on this kind of music for a company that is so well known and loved, not only by people that we know in this country, but all over the world. So it's always inspiring when you see the kind of impact that music does to people, especially when you go to the parks and you see you go to Disneyland and you see the music on Main Street, or those, fireworks shows and people singing and the chills that it brings. It just, it's something special. So I have to say, like, most of the stuff that I've worked on gives me absolute pleasure. And so I'm, beyond myself that I get to work on it. But I got one of the projects that it's closest to my heart is a group known Di Cappella. We actually 3-4 years ago, we went out and did auditions to cast 7 people that sang. And we did the casting for, over 2 weeks. We were able to see over 2,000 people, outstanding singers from all over the country that wanted to be part of our group, which our group is it's a group that sings Disney songs a cappella. And it's close to my heart because I've been on that project since the inception, since we dreamed about it. On a snowy day, we came up with this concept of, wouldn't it be great if we could have a group that was sing all of these magical songs in a different way? And the first night, 3 years later after we had that dream, the first night that we opened their tour, Di Cappella's tour, me and my co-worker, Daryl, it was our first night, and we were sitting, we were standing actually at the back of the theater, and the concert started, and we were holding our breath. We had worked so hard on it, and like sweat and tears, and most of my peers here know the amount of work that went into it. And the show started, and we were biting our nails because we were like, we didn't have enough, like, are people gonna like our little show? And we were so scared. At the end of the show, the group actually got a standing ovation. People were jumping out of their seats, dancing and singing and loving it. And so my friend Daryl and I left the room, and we were both in tears, 2 grown adults. We were both in tears because we saw it there. We saw grandmothers with their grandchildren dancing and singing and sharing the moment. And everybody started leaving the theater, and everybody was like in this, emotional state of like, oh my God, it was so good. And we could only hear people say, this was so good. This was amazing. The group is great. The group is amazing. And, Daryl and I kept crying for a long time because it was very emotional for both of us. It was a bumpy road, and just knowing that, we had dreamt of, like we dreamt of this concept. We had once a dream that people will like it, and then seeing that people did like it and loved it and enjoyed it was one of the most one moment that I'm always going to carry with me whenever I go, because it was very emotional and inspiring to see, that people reacted positive to our project.
That's a great story. And yes, we all know how tough that one was, Laura. So thank you. It's a great story. David, I'll go to you next.
Sure, thanks. I'll pick 2 moments. The first one is I was super excited and inspired to work on the Star Wars film called The Force Awakens, which was the first in the recent trilogy. Mostly because I, being my age, I grew up watching those early Star Wars films, and it was just, there was a lot of excitement building up about it, and in particular, working on a John Williams soundtrack was incredibly exciting for me personally, because some of my absolute favorite music in the world comes from films and comes from his films that he's scored, whether it be Star Wars or Indiana Jones or E.T. or Jurassic Park. I mean, the man is absolutely incredible. So that's one. And then the other moment I will say that was incredibly cool, one of the most unforgettable moments I've had in my job, was actually getting to attend a scoring session. It was for the film Muppets Most Wanted, which I encourage all of you to look at on Disney Plus. Okay, you guys sign up Disney Plus, watch Muppets Most Wanted. Christoph Beck was the composer for that. Same gentleman who did Frozen and Frozen 2, for those of you guys who know those films. It was just such an incredibly cool experience. The way they do these recordings is they have these what are called these enormous sound stages. They're massive halls They have to be, because they're designed to accommodate 120, 130 musicians, up to that amount. It doesn't always have to be that big. But just to sit literally in the live room and listen, be that close up to a live orchestra playing like that. And the other thing that's mind-blowing, and since you're all music students, you'll probably have an appreciation for this. You know, these musicians wake up in the morning, they have no idea what they're going to play. You know, Royd gets them the music, it's sitting there on a music stand, and they have to play it perfectly. And it's just a mind-blowing experience to watch. So that's one of my favorite moments. And then I got to go back in the control room and listen to the playback and see it up against the big screen. It was just something I'll never forget. So thank you.
Awesome. Great story, David. Well, since David mentioned you, Roy, shall we start with you next?
Yes. One of my most favorite moments in working in Disney concerts is when we worked on a concert called Pixar Concert. Now, Pixar Concert has about 14 of the best Pixar movies out there, which we all know, like Up, Ratatouille, Toy Story, on and on and on. And the thing that made it so wonderful for me was I didn't come from an orchestral background. I wasn't someone who had scores in front of them all the time and knew how to read them. This was the very first time that I was able to get the scores from each one of those films and look at them. And while either watching the film at home, I was able to follow and listen and see exactly what those composers were thinking when it went to film, and being actually able to hear it and see it at the same time. That was a very personal thing for me. Now, the other side of that is Pixar Concert was the first Disney concert that I went to. So being able to sit there and when Up started and hear all the sniffles, all the crying and all the sadness, and going, they get it. You know, this is really touching people's lives. And then to hear Incredibles and the action pack and seeing the kids with their faces all animated and all alive, that was the first time I realized, okay, what we do here, it means something. People are listening. People are enjoying this. It touches their heart. It went from just, okay, work, to sit back and go, okay, we're connecting here. And that was one of my most favorite moments working here at Disney.
Awesome, Roy. That was great. Paulo, you're up.
Yeah, it's a hard question for sure, because, I've been now 16 years, and there's been so many just incredible moments and opportunities to engage with fans and see the impact. A lot of what Royd's been talking about, that's really what it's about. We all have our part to make those magical moments happen. Points of inspiration, whether it's to follow a career or just to enjoy a moment with family, doesn't, really matter. It's just those special moments together. And so, a few that come to mind, obviously working on Frozen was an absolute treat to see the impact of what that movie had, the message of sisterhood, the power of the music, right? And how that just impacted the world was a treat to be able to work on that campaign. I go to what David said on Star Wars. I also agree that, we had worked on incredible content up to that point, and then to say, oh, now you're also working on a Star Wars film with John Williams score, you're like, okay, come on, this is not, you can't get any better, And I never forget when we were making the first TV spot for a promo, for an ad, and the theme came in, with the horns and everything. And again, goosebump moment. It was like, am I really working with this music in promoting the soundtrack? And I think to that note, I think we all feel a great sense of responsibility also to make sure we do the best that we can for these projects and for the experience to the fans. But there's just so many, High School Musical. I worked on the High School Musical release, not on the music side. At that point, I was on the DVD film side, but still seeing the impact. I remember going to pick up my son at school, and all the kids were doing the dance when you went to the after school care, and the kids are doing. And then it's funny because sometimes people say, oh, when do you know something's a hit? Like like, you'll see when that impact goes on with the kids and the families and all the folks. And that was also, really, really special. But there's been so many. I think back to Hannah Montana, the movie. Taylor Swift did, some songs on that, and how that resonated with people, to Carrie Underwood and Enchanted. There's a new Enchanted coming, by the way. Get ready for that. And so just a lot of great stuff. So yeah, it's hard to pick one, but really a great question for sure.
So Paulo, I can't get you to do some of those High School Musical dance moves right now, right? I mean, not a little bit here?
No, I didn't warm up properly, so sorry, I can't do that.
Curious. All right, so for our next section, I have a specific question for each of our panelists. So we're going to start with Royd. So Royd, you're a great example of maintaining your musical practice outside of work. Can you tell us a little more about how that helps you connect to your day job, what you do, outside of work?
So like I talked about earlier, looking and seeing these scores and being able to go back and listen to it either from the DVDs or YouTube or whatever, it definitely helped me with the music that I like to create. So I really like movie trailers, big, loud, all in your face movie trailers. And usually at the end of these movie trailers, there's these big dun 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 dun. And I learned how to write and create those type of runs by listening to our music, by looking at the scores that these wonderful composers have done and seeing how they did it. Now I look at a lot of them. You don't steal from one, you borrow from a lot. So I borrowed from all of them to create the music that I like. So that's how it's really helped me do work on songs and work on music outside of my world of Disney. Now with these movie trailers, I love what's called sound design. Now sound design is when you take something like someone dropping a brick and you record it and you take it and you change it and you mangle it and you turn it into something either beautiful or like people dropping a lot of bricks. And that's something I like about movie trailers too, how we can take any ordinary sound and just change it and manipulate it. So that's something that I really like to work on when I'm not working with this content.
Great, thank you. Paulo. So obviously you have this great role in the music group, and which you're wonderful at. But if you had a genie in a bottle and you got granted one wish, you don't get three, you get only one wish in this question, what role in music would you want that you've ever experienced or wanted to be?
Well, one unrealistic dream is to be a performer and be on stage in front of 100,000 people, because I got to see shows from the side, and just to see that impact and energy is incredible. But like Laura, my parents took me aside as well and said, yeah, you don't sing well enough. So that didn't happen. That didn't happen for me either. But I think more realistically, or in my more immediate world, seeing how music supervisors bring together the vision of the filmmaker, the composer, and then just the film itself and how it needs to be translated into certain moments, and the music being interwoven into those moments to translate an emotion, a tone, a feeling, happy, sad, or indifferent. That would be something very intriguing to me, because I'm really big on, impacting moments and experiences. Right now, I do it through marketing and bringing, videos and packaging and advertising and experiences that way. But to be able to be in the front lines and really weave that all together, right? Kind of be the conductor, if you will, of all of those elements that come together, and talk to the filmmaker, and the filmmaker saying, well, in this moment, the sisters bond like they've never bonded before, and that's important because of this, and it needs to have this tone. And then the composer saying, got it. He goes off and then works with the music supervisor then to say, all right, what about this? Could be, but we need it to play for a minute and a half. So let's have it build and crescendo to this moment. There's just so many beautiful elements that go into a singular moment that maybe sometimes we don't even think about but makes us cry, makes us happy, makes us sad. And I would love to, you know, maybe be on the front lines of that, just as, you know, to your question. I think that would be really, really cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Paulo. Next, we have David. So having been in front as a performer in a signed band and now behind the scenes, what would you say was the best part of both and the worst part of both?
Sure. Best part of being in a band, a couple of, it's hard to pick one, but one of the best parts was the camaraderie and the shared experience of both the ups and the downs. You know, it's important to keep a sense of humor when you're trying to, you know, make it big, so to speak. One of the other great parts was just getting to play, just getting to perform. And there are times, and I'm sure some of the young musicians on the call today can probably relate to this or begin to relate to this. There are times when, as a musician, when you're playing, it just flows, just happens. You don't have to think. You kind of reach this point, and it's almost like the music plays itself. And sometimes that happens, and it's so fantastic. It's just a great experience, especially if you're able to do it live in front of an audience. I also enjoyed really being in the studio. That was incredibly rewarding, and having that creativity and the different ways of changing sounds, sort of like what Royd was just describing, even sound design, those kinds of things were always fun. The worst part of it was the band itself. No, I'm just kidding. We hated each other sometimes, and we loved each other too. No, I think the worst part is sort of the opposite of what I was describing a moment ago about the music flowing. It could be really frustrating sometimes because, you know, some days I'll pick up the guitar and I play really well. And then the next day I'll pick it up and I just can't play for the life of me. And it's really frustrating. But I think that's just kind of part of the nature of it. I think that's part of being human. You know, we all wake up in different moods from day to day sometimes. And I think that's part of it. As far as actually working at Disney and being behind the scenes, the best part of the job, it's the people that I work with. I love the people that I work with. They're fun. My team and I get along really well. The people at the Disney Music Group are all super cool people. I think we're kind of in a little bit of a unique position in that people at Disney tend to be pretty polite and pretty low key and not super intense and uptight, which is great. Another thing that I like about it is that, you know, I get to help play a part in the process of delivering music to people for whom that music is super important. When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, my parents went through a divorce when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I swear music got me through the next however many years. It just really saved my butt. And, you know, I'll be honest with everybody on the call and say, I don't really listen to a lot of the music that Disney puts out. It's not personally for me. However, I know that it's super important for a lot of people, and it feels good to be a part of that process. The worst part about my job, I don't know, it's stupid reports. I don't know, just dumb paperwork and more reports that are due by certain dates and I'm always late on, and I don't know, it's just dumb. That's it.
Oh, that's great. That's great, David. Now we know. Awesome. Thank you for that. And finally, Laura. So we obviously know you love musical theater, and even though you almost made it in front of the scenes, you're now behind the scenes. How do you think your passion and your love for musical theater has helped you in your role right now?
Right now, I do work with a lot of performers. I work with singers. And I also have the privilege of working on Broadway cast recordings. And I've been, you know, fortunate enough to attend the recording sessions and work closely together with them. So being like, it takes me back to the moment where I was on stage and where I was, you know, performing these songs or performing songs. And it has made me in particular very what's the right word? pathetic? No, not pathetic. Empathetic.
Empathic.
Not pathetic. Empathic. To just everything that a performer goes through in their preparation and their process before they go on stage, while they're on stage performing, and then, you know, the aftermath and just how to deal with it. I also, like I mentioned before, I come from a musical family. I too, like Paulo, have family members that are musicians by trade, and that's what they do. And I grew up with that very closely. So, you know, understanding as all of you are going to pursue careers in music, music is so good and so emotional, and the good music is when you actually pour your heart into the creation of it and the development of it, and that's how it gets to touch people. But in order to do that, you have to make yourself, you know, available for all these feelings and to be able to write and to be able to express emotions. So that makes performers always kind of sensible and always kind of very, you know, they feel like they put everything in the stage, and then they're fragile, and then they're human. You know, if you guys have gone to concerts and you see the superstars perform, you think like, oh my God, these people, you know, they must be so confident and they must be so amazing. So being able to do that before I actually was behind the scenes, and to be able to feel what it feels like to be in front of a stage performing to someone, the feels, the chills, helps me help them get stronger, more confident in their craft, helps me, you know, just help them take the best out of them and impact people, and be able to perform better. And I think that, you know, that's directly, I was never in a million years I thought I was going to be using those skills. My dad, when he said that I wasn't that good enough, and I said, but I love musical theater and I love music. And he said, baby, there is no career in music. So I am happy to tell you all guys that a month ago I sat in front of him and I was like, guess what, Dad? There is a career in music for me, and I am doing great, and I'm loving it and enjoying it. So I would, you know, for all of you that are pursuing a career in music, just know that, you know, there is a career in music. Your passion can take you very far. And it is important, even behind the scenes, to understand what in the scenes people are going to be doing, to have that sensibility and not be pathetic but empathic, and to understand what they do, and, you know, play music as well. So if you can include in your curriculum, you know, as much interaction with music as you can, as much interaction with performing and performers as you can, is just going to help you develop that sensibility to, you know, be able to do better and just inject your passion into your career, which I think you guys have sensed it from all of us. We're all very passionate about our careers. We're all very passionate about our jobs. We've been able to marry what we love with work. And they say that when you do what you love for work, you know, the work stops and you enjoy it. And I believe everybody in this room experiences that on their job. And I wish that for all of y'all, that you incorporate your passion and love for music into your careers in whatever shape or form it takes you.
I love it. Well, that actually leads beautifully into my next question, Laura. And I think you, unless you want to add after I ask the question, but basically for all the panelists, what is some advice that you would give to everybody on this call if they want to pursue something behind the scenes and work, you know, like you guys do? So Laura, did you want to add anything to that? That was pretty much the answer.
That was the answer. Yeah, no, you guys have tons of ways now with YouTube and like all the opportunities and digital programs available. I'm just blown away. My daughter got 1 year of piano training, just 1 year of classes. We had a teacher that would come once a week, nothing major. But now, thanks to YouTube videos and whatnot, she's like playing all full songs. She's singing to her keyboard. She practices, and she's just being so savvy about resources that are available for free to work on her craft, that I'm just blown away. So you guys already go to a music school. So try to, absorb everything, learn from everybody, all the experiences, because I promise you, there is a career in music for you. You have to use your passion for it, but there is a career in music. And then you two can tell your dad, like I did. There is a career, Dad.
That's right. All right, Paulo, what advice would you give?
Just a couple of things come to mind. One, don't give up if the path you're on needs to all of a sudden take a detour and you don't immediately get to necessarily the next step that you were thinking about. Don't give up. When I first started, I went to, DirecTV, Sony, Paramount. I went to several companies building, I would say, my background, experience, knowledge. I was wanting to be more directly into entertainment and music marketing way earlier than when I got there. But later, what I realized and appreciated was when I got to Disney, I was really ready. And so I would just say, training, if it's learning how to be a songwriter or singing or playing piano or being an engineer or working in publishing, whatever your path is, I would just strongly urge, don't worry if, oh my gosh, I didn't get there, my first job interview and I didn't get it. That's it, I'm quitting, I'm changing my career. Don't do that. Just keep at it. Find a way. You're going to circle around the path and you're going to come back and you're going to land where you want. Trust me, believe me, that just keep working at it and you'll land where you want. So I think really that's, one of the key things that I think is important, because life is, sometimes life is too tricky and it's hard and there's a lot going on. And, it's easier to say, oh, it didn't work out, I'm going to go this way. And maybe do something that isn't as much of an interest, but just keep at it and you'll get there. Some semblance of what your passion is will allow you to get there. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome, Paulo. I love it. Great 2 cents. Royd, what do you have to say for us?
I just have to champion what everyone else is saying. You just don't give up. Just keep pushing at it. If you want to do something in music, as long as you can get that music in there, in your title, in what you're doing, in what you feel your direction should be, keep that in there and then go to it. If you would have told me when I came to Disney that I'll be working at Disney concerts, I'd be like, no, that's not my path at all. I don't know anything about that. I don't deal with orchestras. I don't know nothing about that. But look at me now. I'm checking out scores, going to concerts. It's a wonderful thing. It's great to have music in your life. It's great to have music as the source of what you want to do, because we all love music. We love the journey that it takes us on, because we all have a group of songs that's dear to our hearts that takes us somewhere. And so with that in our hearts and with that as a center, and we want to do a career in music, we go after it. Don't stop. You love music, get that career.
I love that. Good word. And David, we'll end it with you.
Sure. Okay. So I would say a couple of things. One is, if you know what you want to do, like if you have a pretty good idea, make that your focus and learn everything about that you possibly can. If you don't know what you want to do, but you know you want to work in music somehow, some way, be open, try things. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean be a pushover and just do everything, especially if it's not something you're that interested in, but try it. You never know. It might actually catch your interest. If it doesn't, okay, move on, try the next thing and see what else there is out there. The other thing I would say, 2 other things I would say is, be nice, be cool. Just be chill. I mean, this is not the kind of business where it's a small business. Okay. So I know a lot of people who weren't so nice in their early days, and it came back to bite them. One of the reasons I got the job that I have at Disney is because I was pretty cool to a guy who knew people here. And when the job came up, he called and said, this is your guy. So it was just, I'm not saying you have to be a perfect teacher's pet, but I'm just saying, just be cool. The last thing I'll say is literally echoing everything that's been said before me. You know, if this is your thing, man, stick to it. Don't give up. There's going to be a way to do it somehow. I never would have imagined when I was 19, 20 years old and I was trying to be a rock star that I'd end up doing what I'm doing. And I never would have thought, gee, I could be happy doing that. But turns out I actually can. You know, I get to go home at night or stay home. I get to go from the desk to that room over there, and I get to pick up a guitar, or I get to play my piano, or I get to come back in and I change computers and I get to write music on my computer. And it is incredibly rewarding. So that's my story. And I'll leave it there. Thanks.
I love it, David. So thank you guys all. Great words. I want those words for myself. I took some pieces for my own life, so thank you. Karen, so I think I'll throw it over to you and Janine for questions for the last few minutes that we have left.
Awesome. And I'll throw that actually to our neighborhood music folks. Do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask? You can either raise your hand, or we're a small enough group, I think you could just ask. And likewise, I would like to also sort of turn the tables too. If any of the folks from Disney have questions they'd like to ask our students, we could do that too.
I'd love to hear from anybody, like, what do you guys play? What are your instruments and what got you into music?
I play the violin.
Nice. Grace, what about you? What do you play?
I play ukulele and piano.
Oh, super cool.
What's your favorite, Grace? Ukulele or piano? Or do you like them both the same? Not sure.
I like ukulele a little bit better.
I would like to also add that Grace is a beautiful singer too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Nice. Anybody else want to share what they play?
I play
the flute.
Flute. Okay. Clarissa, what about you?
The flute.
That was me.
Okay. That was
That
you.
was me.
Sorry. I thought there were two people going. Jacob, I saw your hand up.
I play piano.
Nice. Sophia?
I play violin.
This is awesome. This is super exciting. See, you guys might well be on that same sound stage like 15 years from now when I'm a little bit older and grayer. I could sit in and listen to you guys. Eleanor, what do you play?
Yeah.
I play the ukulele and I sing.
Nice. Have you met Grace?
Yes.
Cool. You guys should form a group. Camaraderie.
That would be fun.
My name is Logan and I play the violin.
Nice. Nice to meet you, Logan.
Eleanor, go ahead.
I have a question. So, like, are there any other classes I can do, like, maybe to get better at singing besides the one I'm doing?
Oh, besides the one-on-one lessons?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we think about a lot is what it would look like if we were to build a choir. And if we were to build a choir, how that would work when you're singing with others as well. So that's something that we're looking at in the very close future, which might be of interest. So I will definitely keep you posted on that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And on that note, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought up choir. There's so many times we've had incredible moments in films where it wasn't just, a primary singer or a duet, but it was just that, beautiful 15, 20, 25 person choirs that come in, and the experience, you talk about impact and the emotion that comes in when you hear the choir sing and record is incredible. So that's really awesome that you guys are looking into that. We've had many films, Lion King, Aladdin, just a lot of them where they had that choir moment, and it's really, really strong. So that's super cool that you guys are looking into that for sure.
And on the skill set, being able to harmonize with other voices and other kinds of different types of voices is really important as a skill to be learned as you become a professional. I'm sorry about the noise, but but yeah, it will be great to offer that kind of an opportunity for kids to be able to harmonize and learn how to sing with other voices, because that really boosts their singing abilities.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So when I grow up, I want to be like a composer, because sometimes in my free time, I usually just play around and I just make up random songs. So what advice would you guys give me, like when I grow up?
Well,
oh my God! First of all, how old are you?
I'm 11.
How old are you? Oh my gosh, I love it so much that you know what you want at 11. It makes me want to cry, because I can see that Paulo and I will be working on your score when in 10 years or 12 years, Jacob. We'll be marketing your soundtrack. I'm gonna pass it on Paulo. What kind of advice do you have?
yeah, well, I was just going to say, I think you said, and if I remembered you correctly, you had mentioned, you know, sometimes in your free time, you're just kind of messing around and playing and creating music and sounds. And it's so important, Jacob, to keep doing that. I'm going to tell you a little story that the president of music for Walt Disney Studios, who worked on incredible soundtracks with composers for decades, would tell me that a lot of times a composer, there's some composers out there that are incredibly, you know, versed at what they do in musicianship. And then there's other composers that have that background, but really are based in emotion, feeling, and tone and ear. And so they'll say, hey, messing around, we want to build to a crescendo, and then I want it to get soft. And then they start messing around just vocally with that and just tinkering, just playing. And that gets taken into then writing it out, working it out through with the director and whatnot. So you may think, oh, I'm just playing around. I'm just super important. That's super important in terms of the development that you will find yourself doing in terms of creating, right? The creation of sound, music, emotion. So I just, you know, just a little story just to share that you may think, or others may think, oh, this isn't a good song, or this isn't really great. Keep at it. That's where you learn and you take the steps in terms of, you know, growing your talent. So believe it or not, even at the highest level, you know, they're tinkering and playing around with sounds and just trying to get to a moment. So super cool. Thank you for sharing, Jacob.
Hey, Jacob, real quick. I'm sure if you don't have a phone, your mom or dad probably have a phone. There's a little voice recorder on there. You come up with an idea on the piano, record it. Keep saving those recordings, listen back to them, develop them.
Sometimes.
Good. Keep doing that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I think Tanny, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Tanny Ling, you had your hand up at one point.
Hey, I'm Tawny. It's okay. I'm one of the actually, I'm the voice teacher and ukulele teacher at Neighborhood. So, and it's nice to hear a bunch of my students on the call. I heard two other students who said what instruments they played, but they didn't also mention that they're also very good singers. So, Sophia and Clarissa. But anyway, I really like the comment that came up about in response to Eleanor's question about how things she can do to be a better singer, like joining choir, which is huge. And it's something I tell all my students. I'm like, I kind of grill everybody. I go, do you sing in choir? Is there a choir at your school? If there is, can you get into it? Because not only for the musical practice of it, but the camaraderie, just like one of you had said, or used that word earlier, camaraderie, which is a huge deal. If you join choir, you have friends for life, like pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. And I think it's important, not just for singers, for vocalists to do it, but for the instrumentalists as well. Because you get another approach at music, and you take it in a different way, and you use your body in a different way and connect with the music and just a different physicality like that. Equally as important is for the vocalists, the voice students, to take on another instrument. It's not required, but it's usually pretty helpful. Thank you for today, by the way. Just wanted to pipe in while I had the chance. This was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, this was so much fun. We're at time now, so I wanted to thank all of our panelists for sharing your great stories, and all of you guys on the call. Thank you for allowing us to share our stories with you, and for being curious and everything that you are, and keep going. You guys are amazing, and I can't wait to, like Paulo and Laura said, be part of the people helping you guys get your music out into the world. We look forward to doing that. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen now for our final ending here.
Excellent. Well, am I on? Oh,
yes.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. So the one time I check, I was not muted. I want to thank everyone for tonight. This has really been just such a great and well-spirited conversation. And I know there are a lot of wonderful questions that our students still have. And I want to emphasize that this is not the end of a conversation, it's the beginning of one. So our friends at Disney Music Group have been really generous with their time. And if we could give them all a big round of applause, that would be great. Kind of applause. Also, save the date. This is the first in a series. So we're looking at December 3rd for our next one. And then we also have another date to save that's really important, which is September 25th. And that is the live stream of our 2021 virtual benefit, Neighborhood Music School, Healing, Hope, and Harmony. So I hope we can catch you all there. And again, I want to say thank you so much to our friends at Disney Music Group and to our students and teaching artists at Neighborhood Music School. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye. Thank you.
Amazing.